Hello, I'm Ryan F9, and it's time to get something special for our ADV and Dual Sport friends. First off, how do you know that the person you're buying a gift for is actually an ADV or DSer? Well, their bike probably looks something like this. Check for spoke wheels, long suspension, knobby tires, but also a license plate, otherwise we're just talking about a dirt bike. Anyway, one great gift idea is goggles. Every dual sport rider should be using a pair, but you'd be surprised how many of them don't. These ones are the Oakley L-Frame MX goggles, and I chose them for 3 reasons. 1, they're affordable. Friends are worth about $50 to most people, and goody, that's what these goggles cost. 2, the face foam is closed cell. That means dust particles can't work their way through here and into your eye, which is important because big ADV bikes kick up a lot of dust. And 3, they'll work for pretty much anyone, which is good because there's always some uncertainty when buying a gift. For example, the L-frame was designed to fit over top of glasses if need be, but it's also not overly tall for contact users either. And if your giftee happens to have an ADV helmet with a small eye port like my variant, well, that's no problem because the L-frame is quite a petite goggle, and it's made from O-matter, which is just a fancy name that Oakley uses to describe flexible plastic. Basically, it can fit or be made to fit in almost any ADV helmet. After that, it's just basic kit. The Lexan lens is anti-fog and anti-scratch, which of course means it will both fog and scratch once the protective coating wears off, but at least you'll delay the inevitable. And then the strap has some silicone printing on the back of it for grip, as it should. Next up, the Stop and Go portable mini air compressor. If you follow our channel, you've probably seen me natter on about this thing before. The premise is really simple. ADV and dual sport riders love to take air out of their tires when they go off-road, and with this little guy tucked under your seat, you can air them back up at the end of the day without wasting $1 at the gas station. Long story short, I've had a generally positive experience with my Stop and Go. Used it for 2 riding seasons, it's probably filled 100 tires at this point, and it's still going strong. You'll notice that the fabric sleeve for the hose is fraying. Now that's a design flaw because it's actually the plastic case that cuts into the fabric when you tuck the hose away. My other complaint is the pressure gauge. I've checked mine against better tools, and yeah, this one reads about 4 psi too high. But hey, it's a $50 air compressor and it blows. What more do you want? Well, maybe the multiple filling needles that Stop and Go actually threw in, and 2 different hookup options. Or a flashlight to help you use it at night. Stop and Go, you've done pretty well. Now, what if you have less than $50 to spend? Like closer to 20? Well, we've all got enough pen gauges, keychains, and tire irons at this point, so check out Long Way Round instead. Sometime before ADV riding became trendy, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Charlie Boorman rode from London to New York, only they went the long way through Russia, Mongolia, Alaska. It's a brilliant adventure riding series. I found digital versions for $15 and used DVDs even less. It makes a cool cheap gift and you can actually use it during the winter. Next idea, the Scott Dual Raid. We got these into Fortnine recently and they pretty much ruined me for other ADV gloves. The chassis is something called Schoeller Dynatech, which is a hard-wearing, really abrasion-resistant material. It also feels amazing though. It's really soft, really breathable. The armor setup would make Sir Lancelot proud. I have impact padding on the outer hand, and then at the knuckle, it's a big rigid bark buster. This is a little uncomfortable on my hand at first, but it's backed up with memory foam, so I don't think it's gonna annoy me once the glove actually breaks in. Then on the palm, it's classic leather, doubled up in the high stress zones, and I have some silicone grip on the lever finger. One thing I don't like, Scotty, is that you said this glove has reflective elements. Well, it took me a while to find this tiny sliver of shiny material, and that's not good enough. Fitment-wise, my palms are 9 inches in circumference, which puts me in this size large. It fits well, but with all the memory foam padding on top of the fingers, they will feel a bit tight at first. All around, I think this is the best ADV glove under $100, and it only costs about $80, by the way. Now, what if you really like the person you're buying a gift for? Well, if you actually want to keep them around, then there's the Spot Gen 3. You'll normally see this up on my shoulder when I'm motovlogging, especially if I'm off-roading alone. It costs about $170 for the device, plus another $150 or so for a service plan. If I press this button, it sends a text to my wife saying where I am and that I'm okay. If I press this button, it's going to track my route so I can download a map of my adventure later. And if I press this button, it sends a prearranged text or email to up to 10 different people. Mine is set to email my boss saying I've gone beyond cell range and couldn't possibly do any work. Then there's the 2 big buttons. Now this one tells my personal contacts that I'm stuck somewhere, but I won't be dying anytime soon. This one, however, brings the full Monty, flashing lights, and helicopters. Everything else is just what you'd expect. It's waterproof, it's dustproof, it's drop-proof. It runs on 4 AAA batteries, by the way. That normally lasts me a month or two, but it does depend on how often I have it communicating with a satellite. On that note, yeah, you do have to mount it face up with a clear view of the sky using this carabiner they've provided and the Velcro strap on the back. And please, please tell your loved one to put it on their person, not on their motorcycle. People make that mistake all the time. Finally, if you want to go all out on an adventure gift, it's the Klim Krios. This is probably the biggest thing to enter the ADV market in 2016. Klim rules when it comes to off-road apparel, but they haven't offered a proper dual-purpose helmet until now. A few things you'll notice right away: it is crazy light, lighter than pretty much everything else in its class thanks to the carbon fiber shell. My medium only weighs 1,340 grams. It's also functional. The visor itself comes off with these thumb tabs and a few spare seconds, and then the sun peak goes up, down, or off using this thumb screw at the top. It's really easy to swap configurations for different riding scenarios. And lastly, it's loud as shit. Klim calls this helmet acoustically peaceful, but it's total bull because these chin bar vents whistle like crazy above 80 kilometers an hour. I actually contemplated taping them shut for our last group ride. But noise aside, this is still a highly desirable off-road oriented ADV helmet. Nobody has them yet, everybody wants one. If you've got $750 to spend, this makes a stellar present. And that's it for our ADV and Dual Sport guide. Ho ho, hold on because we got more coming up.